Jonathan Kuminga was asked what he worked on this offseason. His response? Everything. The biggest thing in Golden State right now is Jonathan Kuminga. Coming off 2 seasons of promising role-playing production, the staff at the Warriors franchise are providing massive support in the form of Chris Paul as a second-unit facilitator to elevate JK's game all the way to the top of the podium. Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Swish Culture. For all these setbacks he's faced coming to an already established team, Kuminga really started coming into his own midway through his second year. As the most explosive and dominant two-way wing in his draft class, playing with high IQ guys such as Stephen Curry and Draymond Green has given him a significant boost in development despite taking away in other areas such as playing time. Don't worry, JK. That will all be made up soon. Now this year, the team has taken a chance and will give him somewhat of a partner in 18-year perennial All-Star and all-time great Chris Paul. While Jonathan would have still made progress in his third year without Chris Paul, the addition of the Warriors' former nemesis seeks to elevate JK's game to another level. This without a doubt broadens his skills and makes him a much more capable player in the two-man pick and roll with one of the best to ever do it and arguably the best in today's game. Despite being 38 years old, Chris Paul can see a lot of success with the Warriors, and with his ability to bring stability to a team, providing tons of his expertise to a second unit playing non-Steph minutes, this could elevate the Warriors as a whole. While many Warriors fans are expecting CP3 to be just that, a second unit player, bear in mind that locking any specific player in any particular role when they're just about to be integrated to a team would be a recipe for disaster. The team and coaching staff are in fact going about this the right way in seeing where he fits best before making a decision. Despite the fact that Steve Kerr isn't too fond of big men, his other coaching attributes and his general approach is in fact legendary. I know this might sound strange coming from me, but he's played with the greatest basketball player of all time and sees the prodigy in Steph Curry as a player similar to who he was back in the day. He's won championships before coming to Golden State, so he knows a thing or two about what it takes. All that is to say, if Kerr finds that Chris Paul is more helpful to the team on the second unit, he will give him minutes with those guys instead. Everyone is on board with the team to win a championship, so not only does it give the team the best chance in the form of pairing talent, but also the best chance in terms of team chemistry. That said, today we'll be looking at CP3's fit with Jonathan Kuminga and just how JK's growth over the last 2 years will benefit from having such a veteran as his playmaker. But before we get into it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Swish Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content. So without further delay, let's get to it. While we're not expecting an MVP for Kuminga anytime soon, his production level this year will be crucial to the Warriors' success. Not only is he putting it on himself, but the team and coaching staff are putting it on him as well.
8 rebounds tonight. How big's that stat for you?
That's something I've been really working on. If I don't do it in practice, they're going to stop practice. So it's been a consistent thing every single day. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm working on it.
One of the craftiest coaching methods is to challenge your players, and this is clearly what the Warriors are doing with Kuminga in order to help him elevate. Now, while they challenged Wiggins last year, he had some off-court personal stuff that the team was willing to let him slide, but this type of move is typically boom or bust. They clearly see that you're capable of doing what they're asking you, but can you commit yourself to doing it? So this year being Kuminga's third year, the team is expecting him to bring the energy and increase his intensity on defense. When JK works as hard on defense as he does on offense, he's a world-class defender. One of his weaknesses was that he can be overly aggressive on defense and ends up committing a lot of fouls. With that in consideration, he took no days off this summer, and now the expectation is that he'll rise to the challenge of defending without fouling. His first preseason game, while not to be taken as the full context for what to expect, does show that he's on a mission this year. In his first game, he played 23 minutes while putting up 24 points on 14 attempts. On top of that, he had 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and hit 80% of his free throws. The difference in his game is astounding. Steve Kerr had this to say regarding his performance.
I think he's just playing with the confidence that generally comes when you get to your third year. He's seen everything. He's feeling the game better. He looks more confident to me out there.
There's no doubt he's more confident out there on the floor. He shot 50% from 3, making 4 of his 8 shots, and these weren't all open shots. He was getting contested. While it's great to make your shots, what was important was that he didn't hesitate, so you could see the confidence in his shooting and his approach to his own offensive game. He was going to work in the paint against veterans, bullying a 29-year-old 7-year veteran in Taurean Prince and getting the and-one finish. The big deal with trying to defend Kuminga is that he can make you pay from anywhere on the court, whether it be from the three-point line, the mid-range, or when it gets to the paint. A lot of people have been hoping for Kuminga to grow a couple of inches, which in theory would make him an absolute beast in the paint. A 6'9" or 6'10" Kuminga with his athleticism and strength would be very difficult to stop. Unfortunately, you can't learn inches, but you can learn how to shoot, and for him to have the 3-ball in his bag is just as, if not more terrifying than him growing a couple of inches. Imagine a player you can't sag off of, but at the same time, his first step is so quick, and he goes from ground to rim in less than a split second. I mean, before you realize he beat you, he's already on top of the basket. This kid is an absolute problem being able to space the floor. In case you're wondering how serious to take this performance, being that it's a preseason game, think about this. How many of the guys on either team had something to prove that night? Everyone who's not a starter had something to prove. Nobody wants to be a bench player. If your goal is to be a bench player, you already got one foot out the league. The goal for these players is to show what they're capable of doing, display their full arsenal, and show the coach why they should be the first player off the bench and getting those precious minutes. In other words, what can you do? That said, while Kuminga isn't going into the starting lineup as a permanent starter anytime soon, the second unit offense does need a feature, and if Kuminga wants it badly enough, the team is putting him in position to get that. Even if he doesn't start, he could get a lot of minutes if he proves to be Chris Paul's dancing partner. The second highest scorer in the game, and there were 3 of them including Moses Moody, had only 15 points, with D'Angelo Russell the only player on either squad having more assists than Kuminga with 5. It's clear the best player on the floor that night for either team was JK. The only negative on his report card were the 5 turnovers that he had, and considering the team has had a problem with this, it's something he'll have to improve. This is where Chris Paul comes in. One of CP3's greatest attributes is how well he sees the floor and especially how well he takes care of the ball. He's also a film guru, so after a performance like Kuminga had, while you may want to ride the high of his points, rebounds, and assists, and even the threes, he's going into that film room with Chris and they'll look at every single one of those turnovers. This is especially important for Kuminga because if the coach can't trust you with the ball, you're not getting the playing time to show what you're capable of doing. Forget getting the ball on the floor, you won't be on the floor. So yes, he did great, but he could have done much better, and that's one great key element that CP3 will be adding to improve Kuminga's game.
I know they put you on the team with Chris a bunch this summer scrimmaging. What have you learned about playing with him?
Oh, I mean, you're making my life easier every single day. And just watching him, the way he react to certain things, the way he playing, it's somebody to pick his brain. And I feel like just being around him every single day, I mean, they're going to get on me when I'm not doing the right things. And I feel like so far, just playing with him kind of helping me out to read more of the certain things in the game.
So when JK was asked what he worked on this offseason, and he responded with everything, he wasn't kidding. Along with a ton of minutes with Chris Paul to improve his role action in the two-man game, one of the more impactful areas where Kuminga could gain from Chris Paul is his game IQ. Chris Paul isn't getting paid all those millions to just come in and dish the ball and be the focal point of the Warriors' non-Steph minutes. This was a huge investment in Jonathan Kuminga. The thing I love about the Warriors is that they will typically give their young players every opportunity to succeed, and this holds true for even the ones that they end up trading away. Things might be a bit tougher for Jonathan Kuminga, however, because no matter the role you have on the bench, you will need to be a starter to build a legacy. Back when Steph Curry just came into the league, he played alongside, well, behind AC Law. Now, some of you might not remember Law, but he was a 6'3" point guard for the Warriors that would get the minutes that Steph Curry was looking for in order to come into his own as a player. Law was closing fourth quarters while Steph was on the bench. In practice, they would be battling for minutes on the floor. Jonathan Kuminga is in a similar spot. However, the problem is that the Dre-Steph-Clay unit is so deadlocked, it's next to impossible to get into that lineup. There is a way, however, but first, let's acknowledge that his two true options are either getting in as a small forward or even at the 4. That means he's naturally a small forward coming in behind Wiggins, but considering Wiggins is an all-star talent in his prime, that's going to be tough. Getting in at the 4 is somehow tougher still because Steph Curry is still the best player on the floor, and the best piece alongside Steph happens to come at the 4 with Draymond Green. This is a nasty job for Kuminga to try to overcome as a 21-year-old. So then, how does Kuminga possibly get into the starting lineup? The answer is the 5. He could get the starting minutes at the 5 over Looney if he shows enough improvement in his game and does what he's supposed to do at the level we've seen. This would be ideal for Kerr having JK as a small ball 5 because he's one of the best young defenders. He'd be the most switchable player they have on defense. He could stretch the floor while being strong enough to keep opposing 5s away from the basket. He's overall just a more mobile player, and if he sustains a high level of play, that spot would be his. The good thing about this as well is that if he makes it into the starting lineup as a permanent starter, it's then more difficult for him to fall out. This puts him and Draymond in a position where they can both switch who they're guarding and give the Warriors a ton of defensive options against teams without dominant bigs. The problem with that, obviously, is that there are a lot of those in the league in the Nuggets, Lakers, Bucks, and Sixers, to name a few. The Warriors will need to use the Giannis defensive strategy whenever these guys try to get inside the perimeter, essentially walling off these bigger players and force them to take contested outside shots. If they get too close in a man-on-man defense type of situation, it's more than likely game over. But there should be more action from the help defense as well as overall keenness on defensive rotations in these situations in order to give the team the best possible outcome. If Kuminga's got some room to stay ahead of his man, he could use his strength to keep these guys from getting into their range. But offensively, he's got no weakness compared to these skilled big men. Working with CP3 will clean up some of his careless mistakes, and the team has been getting on him in practice. As the highest lottery pick the Warriors have had in recent years with his high projected ceiling, not counting James Wiseman as he was already traded away. They're looking to invest everything in him for the long term. Kuminga's looked up to players like Embiid and Giannis, but considering he's not likely to hit 7 feet anytime soon, he'll have to adjust his game. At 6'7", if he's able to reliably space the floor, set the screens to get Steph Curry open, continue being aggressive on the floor, and continue to play a high level of defense, I don't see what's going to keep him from getting a starting spot at the 5 in the interim. Let me know what you guys think. Do you see Kuminga getting the 5 spot by the end of the year over Looney, or should he just stay on the bench behind Wiggs and Dre? Post your thoughts in the comments below, but before that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Swish.